G'day everyone, welcome back to another edition of Guvs Hero Review videos. Today we are checking out the latest of the mutant heroes added to the game. Specifically, we're going to look at the 5-star legendary red heroine, Echo, the punk rock bat. That's a weird phrase. Echo is available for summons, as we saw just briefly there from the Mutant Mayhem portal. This is one of the 4 challenge events in the game, so it comes around once every 16 or so weeks. There's 4 challenge events. It's on a once every 4 week time slot, so it becomes approximately every 16 weeks or thereabouts. The portal odds themselves, when it does feature, you can see that there is a 1% chance to draw a featured hero and a 0.6% chance to draw a non-featured hero. So to put that into a little bit of perspective, if you were to do 100 summons in this portal, across those 100 summons, you would have an 80% probability of gaining any of the event heroes. So not anyone specific from any of the pools, but just an 80% probability for any of them. For a featured hero, it's a 63.3% probability across those 100 summons, and for an unfeatured hero, it's a 45.2% probability. If you're going after a specific hero, the odds drop off even further, so there is just a 39.4% probability of gaining a specific featured hero, and if they are looking for a specific unfeatured hero, it is just an 8.2% probability across those 100 summons, noting that that last number will drop off if more heroes get added to the portal. So currently there are 9 legendary heroes in this portal, so 7 unfeatured. You add another one, it becomes 8 unfeatured, so the specific odds will drop off slightly even further. I did mention Echo is only just brand new into this portal. She's just been dropped in this month of August 2024. The portal itself and the event, it was released way back in October 2022. Was when it was first released. It is the third, it's the most recent of the challenge event portals, but it was substantially later into the game than the original 3 challenge events. They were around for like a year before they added in the Mutant Mayhem one. So this portal, it's been expanded a couple times, basically every time it's come around since the original release. We had some additions in March 23, September 23, January 24, and now again in August 24. So we are seeing more heroes added to this portal pretty much every appearance at this point in time. Jumping across, and I'll put you on, actually I don't think I need to put you on pause. Let's just jump across and take a look at that artwork. So thank you to Sammy for chucking this one through, but this is Echo's artwork. So titled the Punk Rock Bat. So naturally we've got some of that bat stuff going on. I don't think bats have got 4 wings, but this one does for whatever reason. Also got some of like that vampiristic bat look with the filed pointy teeth and the big ears for that echolocation stuff. We've got some of the punk rocker stuff going on as well with the like the piercings through the wings, which is really weird because I would have thought that would damage the integrity of the wing surface in terms of generating lift and whatnot, but anyway, probably being a bit too nitpicky, hey, with some of this artwork. But yeah, that's Echo's artwork. She is very zoomed out because the image wants to take into account everything on the card. So yeah, anyway, that's Echo's artwork, so feel free to pause it if you wish, but otherwise let's jump back across and we can take a bit more of a look at who she is. So she is a member of the mutant family, or the mutant goons family, which means that she is granted a 10% chance to cast the natural selection effect. Now, the natural selection effect can do one of 3 things, and it is selected at random. So option 1, we see that you can give an attack and accuracy bonus to all allies, so granting 140 attack for 3 turns and a plus 44% accuracy buff for 3 turns. Option 2 is the debuff shield, so it basically creates an immunity, an ailment immunity for 3 turns. And then option 3 is the damage over time reversal, which basically, instead of you taking damage from DOT effects, it is given to you as health instead, and that effect lasts for 3 turns. So Buffs on all fronts. We get double buffs on the first one, but the others are giving one buff to all allies. There is also, we can see down the bottom there, a stat bonus for having multiple unique family members in the fight. So this is going to grant you a plus 2, 4, 6, or 8% attack and defense bonus when you've got 2, 3, 4, or 5 unique members of the mutant family in battle. Now, for this last part, or this stat bonus, they do have to have multiple heroes, and they do have to be unique in order to trigger those effects. So you can't get it with 2 copies of Echo. You've got to combo her with someone like Mallet or Iona as 2 different examples. I will mention the natural selection at the top here. Oops. That bit there, it is inherent to each member of the natural goons, the mutant goons family. There's nothing, you don't need multiple heroes, you just need a single hero, and they will have a 10% chance to cast the effect, which is pretty cool. And that's something we see on all of the challenge event heroes at this point. They all have some kind of triggered effect with their special skills. Moving on from that, Echo herself has got 808 attack, 677 defense, and 1501 HP. So we can see that there is a fairly substantial skew going from that defense stat towards the attack stat. It is roughly 60 odd points or thereabouts, so it's quite a hefty skew, is what we're seeing go from one stat to the other. So it ends up being like 120 or 130 points delta between them. So yeah, it is a pretty hefty skew going that way. The HP is not really affected. It's mostly just the defense that's reduced and the attack that's inflated. I will mention as well, her overall power is pretty high. It's pretty up there. So it comes in at 734. Power is, at the end of the day, just a representation of a hero's base stats or their total base stats. So more power means there's more base stats to split between the 3 effects. Now, 734, as I mentioned, it is quite high. You can see that the current hero of the month, Frostbite, comes in at 735, and Echo's there at 734. So she is up there with the most recent heroes in terms of her overall power. It is much higher than some of the OG heroes in this portal, like Iquani's at 712. But even they are quite high compared to the OG challenge event heroes like Night Owl and stuff, who are down in like the 680s, I want to say. So yeah. That's all I probably need to mention about that. Otherwise I can go down a bit of a rabbit hole. Her charge speed is set to 56, which is average speed and requires 10 tiles to charge, or 5 ghosted tiles. The speed break occurs at speed 58, so you do need just a +2 speed improvement. You can do that any number of ways. You can do it using any of the red speed guns. You've got the Chekhov SVK and the Firewing Trig. Those two give you a +9 speed improvement. You've also got the Tigger Happy, which is a 4-star gun. It will give you a +7 speed improvement. So obviously any of those are going to get you that first speed break. Alternatively, because of where she sits and stuff, you can get that first speed break using just the 2% charge generation node from her class tree located at +8. That is for her speed enough to get you across that single break line as well. The double break can actually also be achieved for Echo, so you need to get up to speed 65, which is a +9 speed improvement. Now, as I mentioned, we've got 2 +9 speed guns available in red. One of them is a vanilla gun, one of them is a weapon of the month. So using either the Chekhov SVK or the Firewing Trig will get you the double break. The 2% node will only break a +8 weapon, so not of as much relevance for the double break as it is for the single break. So class node may be useful if you want to use a different weapon on Echo, like a dodge gun or something like that, or if you've only got a couple of the speed guns and they're better served elsewhere. The 2% node, as I mentioned, will get you that first break, so it can be quite useful in that regard. On the topic of her class, she is a member of the Sharpshooter class, which grants her the chance to pierce or bypass defensive status buffs, including counterattack, and deal essentially the full amount of damage onto their without taking them into effect. So it is a pretty good effect. It does obviously only exist as a chance to bypass, so there is the most likely situation, if you hit someone with counterattack, you're still going to take the return damage, but it does offer the chance to go through them. There is also a side thing where it does armor piercing, so it does an extra portion of damage to the HP below armor, but that's a pretty niche effect, so it's not usually going to be of much relevance. So yeah, it is a pretty nice effect overall, but one of the weaker talents, I would probably say. In terms of an actual emblem path, you can make a genuine argument to go either way for Echo. So you can either go a full-blown attack route and really pump her damage up, or what I personally would recommend, which is to go a defense and HP path, which is going to improve her survival to do that charge control, which I think is where she really shines. So I'll show you what the defense and HP path looks like first, because that's what I would recommend doing. Oh no, I don't want to zoom in. So let's just pretend that this is not Renegade, this is Echo's grid. So the defense and HP path is going to look like this. We are going to pick up that speed node. As I mentioned, it is of probably some situational relevance to a lot of people, so probably worth picking up for most people. If you really don't need it, you can go the other way, because you do gain actually a better defensive stat bonus. But either way, you can go and pick up either path, and then continuing down to grab defense and HP until we get down to the bottom. Now, the plus 19 is a health bonus, so it may be relevant to you, but I definitely wouldn't be going and getting plus 20 because it's way too many emblems for a crit chance. I love crit chance, but not that much. So that's the path you could take to do a defense and HP round. As I mentioned, which branch you take here it really depends on if you need or want that speed node, or if you'd rather go for 2 stat bonuses, which are going to, because if you get a plus 9 gun, you really don't need the 2%, so you may as well go the left path. But if you don't have a plus 9 gun, or you plan to use a different weapon on her, say for a defense team, then it may be of relevance to you. So that's the defense HP path. Pause it if you wish, but otherwise I will show you what the attack path looks like. So it is pretty much the opposite. As I said, same as last time, you can go either way. This time, however, if you really don't need that speed node, there is only an attack node on the left branch. But otherwise, it's pretty clear cut. It is the exact opposite of the last grid that I showed you. Stopping at plus 18 this time, because 19 is the HP bonus, so it's not really of much relevance if you're going an all-out attack path. So yeah, that's the second path. Feel free to pause that, but otherwise, let's go back across and we can take a look at Echo's special skill. Now, her special skill is titled Wing Attack, and at level 10 skill and 64 charge speed, it will deal 315% damage to the target and nearby enemies. It will then prevent the target and nearby enemies from gaining any charge for the next 3 turns, and then it will heal the caster and nearby allies for 33% of normal damage dealt over the next 3 turns. So we'll take a bit of a detailed look at each of those elements, kicking off with the damage component as always. Now, damage is reasonably easy to calculate on a theoretical basis, but there's a lot of variability that feeds into it. So for simplicity and to remove that variability, I compare these heroes based on their attack power, which is analogous to their damage output anyway. Now, attack power is just a hero's attack stat, 808, multiplied by the percentage in their special skill, 315%. And we can see that in the case of Echo, she comes out with an attack power of 2,545. And when we speed normalize it, she gets an APPT of 254, ranking her number 1 of the 12 DOA 3 red hitters. She doesn't have the highest attack power. That goes to Magma. Unfortunately, Magma does have a better overall damage output if you don't speed normalize it, but because Echo is a bit faster than Magma, she ends up coming out on top of the red options. Now, a lot of really great red damage dealers in there. As I said, Echo's there, Bunraku, Magma, even Variant Zidane is quite good. Brock, Accent, they're all quite good damage dealers. But Echo is on the top of that red list. In fact, out of all the DOA 3 hitters in the game across all of the elements, Echo ranks in at number 5 of the 61 5-star DOA 3 options. The only heroes that are better than her are Spite, Fungi Beats, Whack, and the recent Hero of the Month, Crypt. Otherwise, there are a total of 56 options that are lesser than Echo as DOA 3. So very good damage dealer from just an outright damage component, which sort of goes to why I was saying I don't think she really needs any more attack on her emblem tree, and why I suggested going that defensive path, because she's already kicking out heaps of damage, so you may as well go the survival route to try and help her survive a bit more. So yeah, great damage dealer. As I said, lots of other red options that are really quality, and Echo comes out as the number one of them. Moving on from just the damage, we can take a look at the other two parts of her skill. So the next part up is the charge block, or the charge stop. So the target and nearby enemies can't gain charge for 3 turns. So I say so often in all of these reviews that charge control is quite possibly one of the best effects that you can have on a hero in the game. There's a lot of different forms of charge control. So you've got things like insanity, you've got charge blocks, silences, charge slows. There's a lot of options in there, and yeah, charge stop is one of those options that can feed into the charge control brackets. It is a very, very useful effect. It's got a lot of different strategic uses you can make. You can either use it to set off a big board cascade without having to worry about the enemy heroes gaining charge from that cascade. You can use it to neutralize someone like Pulse, because if you put the charge stop out, her minions then can't generate charge each turn for their owners. It can be really good for just giving you peace of mind. You can like block out the right hand side of the board or the enemy team, and then just focus your skills and damage on the left hand side, and you don't have to worry about that right hand side for a little bit. There's a lot of options with how you can actually use the charge stop, and it gives you like just so much strategic value, and disruption is what it ultimately creates. It prevents the enemy team's skills from building at their normal rate. So very, very, very handy effect, and very, very useful. The AoE 3 component is really, I mean, it's great, like fantastic. As is the 3 turns, it effectively makes her kind of like the red counterpart to Emerald in a lot of ways. Emerald is admittedly a little bit faster on her base speed, but because Echo can get that double break, they both end up on 8 tiles essentially. Emerald with the single break, Echo with the double break. So final thing to note, it is obviously an ailment, so you have to watch out for all those usual suspects, like it being cleansed, it can be withstood, it can be resisted by the support class talent, or it can be reflected back at Echo either by a buff or from one of the Season 2 family bonuses. So you do have to just watch out a little bit with that, but I mean, that's not unique to Echo. That's the case for any hero that's got ailments in their skill, particularly charge control ailments. So yeah, really, really great effect. Very, very useful effect. The final part of her skill is the heal for damage. So the caster and nearby allies heal 33% of dealt normal damage for 3 turns. This is a bit of an unusual effect, and I do think it will cause a little bit of confusion amongst a lot of players, because it is different to what we typically see in the game as heal for damage. So normally we see skills like Emerald or Ghost where it is an immediate heal based on the damage dealt from the special skill, right? Emerald will self-heal for damage she deals in her skill. Ghost will armor heal or create armor for the damage that she deals from a special skill. Echo doesn't do that. Echo will give the healing for a portion of the normal damage that is dealt over the next 3 turns. Now, note the emphasis on the word normal damage. Now, normal damage is tiles, slash attacks, and minion strikes. It's the same bucket of damage that can crit normally. Now, minions, I have tested this. Minions don't actually trigger this heal for damage, and I'm guessing the rationale or the logic behind that is that the damage isn't explicitly being done by Echo or her allies. It is being done by the minions, which are just owned by Echo. So there is one other hero that has this effect, and that's Grizzly G from the Grand Heist family, so it's the 4-star yellow. He's the only hero that I'm aware of that has this effect in the entire game. So it is a very, not wholly unique, but almost a unique effect. It's the only 5-star hero with this effect, and I do think genuinely it's going to confuse a lot of people. It's a bit of a weird effect as well, if we take a bit more of a detailed look at it. And the reason why it's a bit weird is because on a defense team, it's going to have almost no value, right? Because the only normal damage a defense team does is slash attacks. And slash attacks are typically 120, 150 damage kind of range. So the heal we're getting is probably only going to be about 50 HP from the effect. So it's a very small heal on a defense team. Similarly, in attack teams, if you're using just a single color hero, the healing is also going to be almost non-existent, right? Because it's only dealing the healing based on the tile damage. Now, a single hero doesn't generate much tile damage, right? They're only generating, 50, 100 kind of HP. So the heal is only going to be like 30 HP if you're doing it as a single stack. The only time it really creates any relevance is when you're using a color stack. Preferably strong color damage from your color stack, but unless you're able to create a lot of tile damage, you're not actually going to generate much healing as a result of this effect, because it is only doing it for the normal damage that is dealt. So yeah, the time you will see it most, or it's going to be most useful, as I said, is going to be a color stack on attack teams. And in this vein, the spot you're going to see the absolute maximum amount of healing from the effect is actually against war machines, which have got a very low defense stat. And because of this, it is actually quite easy to get tiles doing 10,000 damage or higher, which means that the healing that is being generated for each tile is about 3,000 HP per tile, which is actually kind of stupid when you look at the fact that she's only got 1,500 HP to start with. So I don't know, it's a little bit of a weird one. In an attack team, right, if you're part of a strong color stack, like a 3-stack, you can deal 100, 200, maybe 250, 300 damage at the outside. So you're probably going to gain 100 to 200 HP, 100, 150 HP. If you're using it as a strong stack on strong color damage. That's kind of the range you can expect per tile, right? So if you generate a lot of tiles or have a lot of tiles that move in your colors, then you could actually get a lot of health back, right? If you get 3 tiles that are strong color that land, each doing 150 HP, that's 450 health back. That's a third of a HP bar. So it can be quite good, right? But because it's heal for damage, there's no guarantee you're actually going to get any healing, because it is entirely linked to tiles or slash attacks on defense teams, but tiles on attack teams. So if you trigger Echo and then get no red tiles or whatever color it might be, then you get no healing. Similarly, if the enemy team dodge it or you ghost those tiles, there's no damage that's dealt. So therefore, again, no healing. So it's a bit of a weird effect, right? I don't know, I kind of see it as a little bit of a meme. So anyway, overall, I think Echo is still going to be a pretty decent hero, mostly in attack situations. I don't see her necessarily being as good on defense teams as what we see with some comparable heroes. The upfront damage that she deals is pretty hefty. It ranks amongst it is amongst the top 5 AoE 3 damage dealing options in the game. You then add on the 3-turn charge block, which targets or on the targeted enemies, and it gives her a lot more uses, both strategic and opportunistic. The heal for normal damage, as I said, I see it as a bit of a meme effect. It's one where you could gain some benefits in some situations, but not always. In fact, most of the time, and mostly on defense teams, you're not really going to see any real benefit out of it at all. So, I don't know, it's a bit of an interesting effect and an interesting hero. I do think that Echo is ultimately quite comparable to Emerald, who's become a bit of a fan favorite among a lot of players for use in both attack and defense teams. Echo I see as being the equal in terms of attack, but on defense teams I just don't see it, because she doesn't self-heal the way that Emerald does. She doesn't gain that same benefit from the self-heal that Emerald creates. So for Echo's grading, all right, I am going to give her an A- for war and raid attacks. I still think she is going to be an incredibly useful hero, particularly in the attack teams, mostly on the back of that charge control, and then sort of a little bit that opportunistic healing you can gain from just you doing your normal tile matches. On War Machines, I'm going to knock her down to a B grade. Charge stop is nice. Her damage is nice. She's got a high attack stat. And the heal for damage is going to be better on War Machines. But she's not what you'd class as being a War Machine specialist hero. So I'm going to give her a B grade there. Actually, I'll give her a B+ for War Machines. Just because the heal for damage meme sort of thing is much more useful on War Machines than it is anywhere else. On the eventing, I'm going to give her a B+ here. AoE 3, high AoE 3 damage as well, which does give her a lot of uses on the eventing. Multi-hitters are still better, but she's probably, well, she is the 5th best option behind those multi-hitting options. So a B+ on eventing. On the defense side of things, I'm going to knock her down to a B grade. Like I said, I don't see her being a big-time defensive hero. Her stats aren't overly defensive. The healing is going to be very, very, very depressed because it's only linked to slash attacks. Positionally, flank, I'd say is probably the best spot. I don't see her being a tank. She's a bit too squishy, is basically the short of it. So I'd put her as being a B grade for war and raid defenses. In our 3 tournaments, we got a bloody battle, so there's no healing, which, as I said, it's a bit more of a meme, so I don't see it affecting her hugely, but I do knock her back a little bit. So I'm going to give her a B+ for bloody battle attack and a B grade for bloody battle defense. On the buff boosters, she does create 1 buff for the caster and nearby allies, so that's that heal for damage line item. It is a buff. So I'm going to give her an A- on buff booster attack and a B grade for buff booster defense. And finally, on the charged attack tournament, she does go from speed 56 up to speed 65. So I'm going to give her a slight improvement here and give her an A grade for charged tournament attack and a B+ for charged tournament defense. So overall for Echo's grading, that comes out as being an A- for her attack grade and a B for her overall defense grade. And that concludes the content that I have for this review of Echo. As always, these are just my personal thoughts and opinions on these heroes. I do love hearing your thoughts and feedback, so please do drop down and leave me a note in the comments. I try to read and respond as much as possible. If you did find the content to be good, useful, helpful and everything, feel free to like it, subscribe to the channel, share it around. There's plenty of other stuff that could be as or more useful to you as a player, so feel free to check it all out. Thank you once again for tuning in and joining me. I do hope I will see you again soon. But until then, good luck, stay safe, and happy gaming. Cheers. Bye.